Hey, 8th graders. So this is our third lesson for SCASA. But before we get into our lesson, just want to do a little review from last week's lesson. And we talked about managing our emotions. So think for a little bit about why it is important to be able to manage your emotions. Okay, so it's important to learn how to recognize our emotions so that we can see how our emotions influence the decisions we make, okay, so that we're better prepared to make more thoughtful and rational choices. We also talked about using empathy, so putting yourself in someone else's shoes, thinking how they might be feeling at that moment. And we talked about using empathy to better understand and identify the emotions of others, okay? And we also talked about facial expressions. And remember, facial expressions are universal, okay? They're the same everywhere, okay? So you can recognize someone's emotions simply by looking at their faces, okay? You might not know why they're feeling that emotion, but at least you can recognize how someone might be feeling. This week we're going to talk about how to communicate effectively so that our message is both understood and so that we can better understand the speaker. Remember, communication is a two-way street, right? Both the speaker and the listener. So in what ways do we communicate? That's right, we share information and meaning with our words. We share our intent and mood with our body language, our tone of voice, and facial expressions. These verbal and nonverbal elements work together to convey our message. But communication can get tricky. Okay, what could happen if the speaker's words, their tone of voice, and their facial expression and body language don't match? Well, we can sense something isn't quite right? And we will get a mixed message. Sarcasm. So when we say kind words in a mean or sarcastic tone, we send a mixed message. What should the listener believe? Our words or our tone of voice? So the listener should believe the tone of voice. So why should we believe someone's tone of voice instead of their words? Because our tone of voice, the body language, and facial expressions that we make usually reflect our true feelings or someone's true feelings. So we know that how we say something is just as important as what we say. How you ask for something and how you present yourself will affect how others respond to you. So let's picture yourself, say you have a job, you're an employee, okay, and you're asking your boss for a raise. So I'm going to ask for a raise using 3 different communication styles: passive, aggressive, and assertive. So if I was in class with you, I would have you each volunteer to act out each of these roles. But unfortunately, I have to try to do that for you over the computer. So I'll do my best. Okay, so the first type of communication, the person, I'm going to have you guess which one it is. But the person's going to be looking down, slumping their shoulders, maybe biting their nails, excuse me, speaking softly, kind of looking apologetic, and they're going to say, "I'm so sorry to bother you. You wouldn't want to give me a raise, would you?" So what style do you think I used? Passive, aggressive, or assertive? If you said passive, you're right, okay? So I would describe that passive communication style by a quiet or indirect way of speaking. You're not standing up for yourself. You're demonstrating a lack of confidence or a fear of offending others. Okay, so that is explaining how a passive person would communicate. So let's do the next one. Okay, this person is pointing their finger in the boss's face and shouting, "Give me a raise, you cheapskate, now!" So what style do you think I used? That person was using? Yes, if you said aggressive, you were right. Okay, this person was forceful and hurtful to others, loud and demanding, and they were rude and inconsiderate. Okay, all right, so let's do the last one. And the last one that's left is assertive. So The assertive person is standing tall, looking relaxed, using a firm tone of voice, and making eye contact. And the assertive person would say, "Mr. Jones, I have worked for the company for 5 years now, and I have increased sales by 80%. I would like a pay raise. I would appreciate an answer by Friday." Okay, so which style did I use? Well, we already talked about. Yes, that was assertive. Okay, so that was explaining assertive communication, standing up for yourself and respecting others and yourself, being honest and direct and confident. Okay, so now think about it. Which of these three communication styles do you think would get the best results? Okay, so passive, aggressive, or assertive? Most of you will say right away, it's assertive communication. Good job. Okay, so assertive communication is polite and respectful. You state what you want and why you deserve it. Okay, so you're confident. So people who ask assertively are more likely to get what they want because they are confident, respectful, and direct. Okay, so no one listens to a passive communicator, right? They have no confidence. They're not really standing up for themselves, so they kind of get looked over. And aggressive communicators are mean and rude. Okay, so and the boss might actually even fire you, right? In this scenario. So the best way to get what you want and to ask for what you want is to ask it in an assertive style of communication. So how many of you have ever tried to have a conversation with someone and they're on their phone? Or trying to talk to someone who leans away from you with their arms crossed and isn't looking at you while you speak? How does that make you feel? Pretty hurtful, right? Because you can see they aren't interested in what you're saying. Okay, it feels like the person you're talking to isn't interested in what you have to say. Okay, on the other hand, what if someone leans in toward you, looks relaxed, looks at you while you're speaking? What would this mean? Well, it would mean that the listener was really interested in what you have to say. Okay, so active listening. Good listening demonstrates care and respect for the person speaking, and it is a valuable tool for ensuring long-lasting friendships. When we listen empathetically and make an effort to understand what is being said, including the feelings that the speaker is conveying, we become not just listeners, but active listeners. So here's some techniques to use so you can be an active listener. Okay, so listen empathetically, smile, and acknowledge what the speaker is saying by nodding. You don't have to agree with the speaker, and often the speaker doesn't want this either. Rather, the speaker wants to know you understand how they feel. Number 2, don't interrupt. Okay, don't keep interrupting the speaker. 3, focus on what the speaker is saying. 4, ask clarifying questions if you don't understand what the speaker is trying to say. 5, paraphrase what you've heard. So putting the message in your own words allows the speaker to correct you if you have misinterpreted something. Okay, so becoming an effective communicator takes practice. We can build stronger relationships when we communicate our thoughts and feelings effectively. We are better able to resolve conflicts peacefully, share feelings and ideas with others, and make decisions consistent with our goals. In our last lesson, we will put our communication skills to work in building relationships. So I hope this week you'll practice being assertive when you're speaking to someone, making sure that your verbal and nonverbal cues match when you're trying to convey a message. And also practice being an active listener, okay? Making sure you're giving the person your full attention, okay, so that they can get their message across to you. And if you have any questions, here's my email again, or comments you'd like to add, I'd like to hear from you. So hope you have a great week, and we'll talk to you next week when we talk about our bonding and relationships.